Welcome to another installment of the Fortimanager 4.3.3 video series. This video is going to cover the basics of zone mapping. So let's get started. Today we're going to talk about zone mapping and how to map your different interfaces and how those are used with the firewall policies in your policy packages. So first let's go over a little bit about the mappings. In older versions we had dynamic policy or dynamic zones and dynamic interfaces, and you can map those quite easily. And this is an extension to that that allows you to map to multiple interfaces and translate those zones down to your FortiGates. So let's go over this diagram a little bit here just to explain what we're going to do today. So up here we have our Fortimanager, and it's managing several FortiGates here. In our example, we're just going to use one FortiGate. So what you'll do is you're going to add some zones into your Fortimanager, or you may have imported some from a previous FortiGate device. And we're going to add some policies that are going to use these zones. Once you've added your policy, then you'll go to your FortiGates, and you're going to map what each of those zones maps to on the FortiGate itself. So you're either mapping to a zone of the FortiGate or a particular interface of the FortiGate. So you'll see here internal is mapped to port 1, external to WAN 1, and so forth. Here it's mapped to 2 ports, or 2 interfaces, and this one's only mapped to the 3rd one. And after you perform an install of your policy package, it installs this policy down to these different FortiGates. It'll be translated into a local policy on that FortiGate, and that's what this 4th step is here. So this shows you that internal, that's up here, the source zone internal, which was this zone, is translated into port 1 because you've mapped it to port 1 here, and the rest remain the same. This one, because it has 2 ports assigned to it, a zone gets created on the FortiGate called _internal. That's a special convention that we use, and that's associated with those 2 ports, port 1 and port 2. And then of course the 3rd one, same thing, translates to port 3 as is here. If you don't have a mapping and you added a policy that's using, say, external, and you try to install it here, during the install phase it'll ask you to do the mapping. So let's go to FortiGate or the Fortimanager, and we'll take a look at how this is all done. Okay, so we'll log in here. And we'll go to our test ADOM. I created an ADOM here before, so we're going to use this ADOM. Enter it. And I've previously added a FortiGate onto here already. This one doesn't have any BDOMs on it. We'll go over that in another example later. So go to your policy and objects, and we'll go to the objects section. So let's take a look at the zone. So I didn't import any of the interfaces from that FortiGate, so I've left this empty just to simplify our example. So we're going to create a new zone here. So let's say we call this one internal. So this is analogous to step 1 in the diagram I showed you before here. So it's this step here. Step 1. And we'll create a couple more just for fun. External and DMZ. Okay. So we've created our zones, and what you'll want to do is you can use those in a policy package. So we can go to our default policy package, for example, and we'll create a policy. New policy. So choose your source zone, for example. I'm going to choose the internal and go to any address. I'll leave the destination zone as any and choose all for the destination address, schedule, and say we choose FTP, for example. We want to deny traffic. So click OK. Okay, so this is analogous to step 2 in our diagram here. So we've created our policy in our policy package. So one more thing we want to do is later on we want to install to our device. So we're just going to set our installation targets. So we'll get rid of the groups here for now, and this is the device we want to install to. So that's all ready to go. Okay. So now what we need to do is map each device's zones, all the ports and stuff, to the appropriate zones that we created over here, over in the policy section. So if you look on the FortiGate itself, it has several interfaces. So these are all its physical interfaces, has 10 ports on it. So we'll go to our zone map, and we can choose to show the unmapped zones. So these are the zones that I created under the policy and objects section. And I'm going to choose to map some of these. So say I want to map internal to port 1, and I'll map external to, say, port 3, and maybe I'll map the DMZ just for fun. So we'll do, say, 6 and 7 is mapped to DMZ. Okay, so now we have our mapping all correct for that device. And we can go back. So that follows this step here. We've performed our mapping of the FortiGate itself. So now we would do an install, and it should do a translation of our policy that we created into something like this. So let's go back, go to our policy and objects, and we're on this policy package, so we'll click the install button, or we can right click and choose install here. And we can install the policy package in device settings. And we're installing to that device, yes. So we'll go through a validation phase just to make sure everything's okay. And you can choose to preview the settings that are going to go in there. You can download those settings. So if we take a look at the preview, for example, we can see how this was translated. So this is the firewall policy, and you'll see right here it's translated to use port 1 from our internal mapping. Click OK. So we'll hit next, and we'll just let it go ahead with the install, and we can take a look at the FortiGate after. Okay, so it's completed our installation. You'll see its status was okay. So we'll finish the wizard here. And we can go take a look at the actual FortiGate to see if everything was installed okay. So let's take a look at the policy table, and you'll see here's our new policy. From port 1, source is any address, or all destinations to any. There we go, FTP deny. Well, thanks again for watching. And in the next videos, we're going to talk about using zone mapping with VDOMs and VLANs. See you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.